So Tna Impact took place once again from Salt Lake City, Utah. The show starts with Dixie Carter coming to the ring. Dixie says that AJ Styles displayed a shortage of intelligence by choosing to leave the company. She says that she gave him everything, but he rejected everything. Dixie says that she will not recognize Styles' existence and adds that he is not the world champion anymore. She says that she needs a champion who will make the company grow. Dixie says that there will be an 8-man tournament to decide who will be the new world champion, and she tells 7 of the 8 wrestlers, all former world champions, to come out. Those wrestlers are James Storm, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Austin Aries, Robert Roode, and Chris Sabin. Dixie mentions that there is one more entrant to be named, but before she says anything else, Bully Ray and Brooke Tessmacher come to the ring. Dixie says that there will be a gauntlet match to determine the 8th wrestler in the tournament. Bully Ray wants to know how he's going to become world champion again if he's not in the tournament. He gives Dixie his weekly line, but she tells him that she knows who he is and says that he is the guy who lost to Styles twice. Dixie says that he is the reason why certain events have led to this tournament. Bully Ray says that Earl Hebner and Mr. Anderson cost him those 2 matches and that they are the individuals that Dixie should take issue with, not him. The lights go out and Mr. Anderson appears. He comes to the ring and starts exchanging blows with Bully Ray. Anderson gets the better of Bully Ray and knocks him down in the corner. He starts kicking away until the Goon Squad comes in to pull Anderson off. After the commercial break, we see footage of Anderson being led away by the goons in handcuffs. Tessmacher gets in his face, telling him that he shouldn't have returned and that Bully Ray is going to destroy him. And then Bully Ray hits Anderson from behind, knocking him down, and scares away the 2 goons by himself. And then Bully Ray whips him with the chain, berating him and telling him to stay away. Solid segment. I see where they're going with this world title tournament scenario, but having Styles face wrestlers in other countries now becomes meaningless because he is not the recognized champion. However, keeping him off TV is good for now. Once they have this champion versus champion matchup in which the new recognized champion meets the quote-unquote champion that was never beaten for the title, something that needs to be resolved as soon as possible, the company needs to start focusing on bringing true meaning back to the term world champion. Having their recognized world champion defend the belt in other countries against contenders in those countries would be a great throwback to the old school days, and it would be a significant move that would set TNA apart from the competition. I thought that the continued build between Bully Ray and Mr. Anderson progressed well. And the interesting part will be seeing with whom Garrett Bischoff and Mike Knox will place their loyalty. Speaking of, we see Garrett Bischoff backstage. He's asked what his opinion is about Bully Ray and Mr. Anderson. And Bischoff says that is the business of the club. However, he recalls Bully Ray pile-driving Mr. Anderson and taking his vest. Mike Knox appears and wonders why Bischoff is talking about this subject. And Knox says that he needs Bischoff's help because he has an opportunity to do something. So then we had the World Tag Team Championship. The glorified jobbers, Robbie E. and Mr. Duh, defending against James Storm and Gunner. An okay match. The match ends with a double team with Gunner holding Mr. Duh as Storm comes off the middle rope with a fist to the back. Then Storm executes the Eye of the Storm on Mr. Duh. Storm goes for the pin, but Robbie E makes the save. Robbie E whips Storm off the ropes, but Storm reverses the whip. However, Robbie E stops his momentum and takes Storm down to the mat. Gunner comes into the ring and punches Robbie E. He rams Robbie E's head into the turnbuckle and starts attacking him in the corner, but Mr. Duh hits Gunner from behind. The jobbers double team Gunner in the corner and whip him across the ring to the other corner. Gunner goes over the top rope and to the floor. Robbie E goes outside the ring and clotheslines Gunner. Meanwhile, Storm hits Mr. Duh with a double knee gutbuster, which Mr. Duh completely oversells. Storm sets up for the super kick, but Robbie E pulls Mr. Duh out of the ring. Storm gets a hold of Mr. Duh and pulls him up on the ring apron. He lifts Mr. Duh up for a vertical suplex, but Robbie E grabs Storm's foot, causing Mr. Duh to fall on top of Storm. Robbie E holds Storm's foot down as Mr. Duh gets the 3. The winners of the match, the glorified jobbers. What is there to say? The tag team division is still non-existent. The idea of the glorified jobbers being the tag team champions is still ridiculous. That's it. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage on the phone. Sting walks in and she motions him to sit down. She gets off the phone and asks Sting if he heard about the gauntlet match announcement. Dixie says that she can't stand hearing that Sting can't ever get another shot at the world title, and she decides to temporarily change that by putting him in the gauntlet match. Dixie says that Sting will go first so that he can prove that he's still the man. Sting tells her that he has earned everything in his career and didn't have anything handed to him. He leaves, and Dixie keeps asking if that means that he's going to be in the gauntlet match. Yes, Dixie, that means yes. So then we see Bad Influence backstage. They are both dressed as English detectives, and with bad British accents, they say that they are looking for Abyss as well as the television title. Okay. Yes, please find the television title. Remind TNA that they should be utilizing it. So then we had the most highly anticipated rematch from Bound for Glory. Ethan Carter III versus Norv Furnham. In a shocking result, Ethan wins the match that TNA fans have been losing sleep over with a headlock driver. Another note to TNA. A jobber should not be doing a springboard cross body block on your wrestler that is supposed to look as good as possible with this slow build. And once again after the match, he gets on the mic and says, "I'm Ethan Carter III and I have the lamest catchphrase in professional wrestling." So then we see Robert Roode backstage with a doctor. Roode shows him video of the Bound for Glory match between himself and Kurt Angle and points out the moment when Angle tore his knee cartilage and knocked himself out. Roode tells the doctor that only a week has passed since Angle was determined unfit to wrestle, and he wants the doctor to make sure that Angle is able to compete in the main event. So then we see ODB backstage. She talks about her match with Gail Kim on the show for the Women's Championship, noting that she wasn't pinned for the title at Bound for Glory and that Lady Tapa had taken her out on the ramp. And then Bad Influence show up in their Halloween outfits and harass ODB before they are chased off by Eric Young. Riveting. So then we had the gauntlet match, which was not really a gauntlet match, in which the winner of the match will be the 8th entrant in the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. The participants in the match are Sting, Kazarian, Mike Knox, Eric Young, Christopher Daniels, Manic, and Magnus. After Manic eliminated Knox, Taz says that he has to get rid of his vest and get out of Ace's Nates because they suck. I wonder if Bully Ray was listening. Magnus wins the gauntlet match by eliminating Sting and Kazarian at the same time. Decent match, but a meaningless match. TNA touted this world title tournament as one in which the previously named entrants are all former world champions. So they actually wanted fans to think that Sting would win this gauntlet match. TNA, do you remember Sting's performance at Bound for Glory? No one thought that he was going to be in this tournament. Once Magnus came out, everyone knew he was going to win. From TNA's point of view, if Magnus was going to be the 8th entrant, they could have simply announced this at the beginning of the show, and they could have put this match time of nearly 20 minutes to better use. Here's an idea. How about having an X Division match to see who becomes the next contender that challenges Chris Sabin? Here's another idea. How about debuting a new face in the women's division that will challenge Gail Kim? If Lady Tapa is so green, why not put her in a match against a jobber so that she can gain the experience that she needs? 3 matches in 20 minutes that put the focus where it's needed. So then we see Kurt Angle backstage. He's talking with the same doctor that we saw earlier with Robert Roode. Angle is asked if he has been given the go to wrestle. He says that he has, but the doctor has recommended that he not wrestle as a precaution. And he simply says that he's going to beat Roode's ass. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage. She's asked about how she feels about Magnus making it into the world title tournament, and she congratulates him. Dixie says she's looking forward to announcing the brackets for the tournament, adding that she has a surprise that she would only refer to as the, quote, Wheel of Dixie, unquote. Wonderful, he said with incredible sarcasm. So then we had the Women's Championship. Gail Kim, accompanied by Lady Tapa, defending against ODB. Decent match. The match ends with ODB applying a single leg Boston Crab to Gail. However, Gail makes it to the ropes. Gail kicks ODB from the mat. She gets up and charges the corner with a drop kick, but ODB moves out of the way. ODB delivers a couple of shoulder blocks and a body slam to Gail. ODB goes to the middle rope and comes off with a Lou Thesz press for the pin, but Gail kicks out. ODB lifts Gail, carries her to the corner, and props her on the top turnbuckle. Gail tries to set up an offensive move, but ODB bangs the top rope, causing Gail to lose her balance. ODB lifts Gail off the top turnbuckle and executes a front suplex. As ODB goes for the pin, Taba gets on the ring apron and argues with the ref. OB goes to confront Tapa, then Gail comes up from behind and rolls her up for the 3. The winner of the match, Gail Kim. Once again, introducing Tapa first before a women's match that she is not participating in undercuts the nucleus. The nucleus is your women's champion and she should not be introduced second. Gail versus ODB. Again. So then we see Bad Influence in the ring with their detective costumes on. And Christopher Daniels pulls out a pumpkin from under the ring that is smarter than Abyss. Then we see a repeat from Bound for Glory as Eric Young comes to the ring. Bad Influence attacks him. Abyss comes out. Double clothesline and black hole slams both Daniels and Kazarian. Abyss helps Young up, etc., etc., etc. Bad Influence's comedy shtick is usually entertaining, but not tonight. It felt like they were trying too hard to be funny because it was Halloween and it came off forced. Abyss appears this week only because it's Halloween, and dumbass Joseph Park likely returns again next week. It's old. TNA, just because it's Halloween doesn't mean you need to build Impact around it. So then we see the first round pairings for the World Title Tournament. Jeff Hardy versus Chris Sabin, Robert Roode versus James Storm, Kurt Angle versus Austin Aries, and Magnus versus Samoa Joe. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage with Jeff Hardy and Chris Sabin. Dixie tells him that they will face each other in the first match next week. We see that this wheel of Dixie that she spoke of earlier is this wheel with different gimmick matches on it. She says that every tournament match will have a special gimmick attached to it. Dixie spins the wheel, and the wheel, quote unquote, lands on Full Metal Mayhem. So the tournament match between Hardy and Sabin next week will be a Full Metal Mayhem match. Why does this tournament need gimmick matches? Is this the only way that TNA can generate interest? This is a World Heavyweight Championship tournament. It doesn't need gimmick matches. As far as this Wheel of Dixie goes, what's the point? Their plan is to put a gimmick on each match, so they might as well have done that already. That way, they won't have to spin a manual wheel that isn't going to land where they want it to, hence the turning of the camera away from the wheel and on Dixie so that we can't see them manually adjusting the wheel to where they want it to land. TNA, if you're going to do something as cheesy as this, you could have gotten an electronic wheel that would stop where you want it to via remote control, and you wouldn't have to turn the camera away from the wheel. On an unrelated note, Sabin has moved backwards from those small steps that I thought that he had taken at Bound for Glory, once again returning to his failed Sabin persona of a goofy chump. No velvet, no progression. So then we had the main event, Kurt Angle versus Robert Roode. Good match. The match ends with Angle securing the ankle lock on Roode. Roode rolls over and tries to kick Angle off him, but Angle holds on. Angle falls to the mat and grapevines Roode's leg as he maintains the hold. Roode makes it to the ropes though. Angle hoists Roode up and puts him on the top turnbuckle. Angle gives him a couple of blows and climbs up on the middle rope. He tries to go for an Angle slam, but Roode counters with a couple of punches and a couple of headbutts, causing Angle to fall to the mat. Roode recovers and appears to set up a move off the top rope, but Angle quickly jumps up to the middle rope in the corner and executes an overhook suplex. Both men are down on the mat, and referee Brian Hebner begins a double count. Angle crawls to Roode and drapes his arm on top of Roode for a pin attempt, but Roode gets his shoulder up. The ref starts another double count as both men are still down, and reaches 7 before Roode makes it to his feet. The ref checks on Angle and sees that Angle can't continue, and he calls for the bell. The winner of the match, Robert Roode. Angle is attended to by the refs as well as backstage personnel. Roode quietly leaves as he watches the situation. Show ends. Another entertaining match with another questionable ending. This injury angle is fine for now, but TNA does run a risk of making fans anticipate that Kurt Angle will go down in each match now, which could suppress the excitement for any match that he's in. Angle has Austin Aries in the tournament. TNA should wrap this Angle injury up before that match happens. TNA lets their negatives outweigh their positives at the inopportune times. This time, this match can't happen. I'm Tazmark 2002, and that's my TNA Impact Analysis for October 31st, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button. And if you subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, please leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments about TNA or wrestling in general, you can contact me on Twitter, Tazmark2002. That's TAZMARK 2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email. Tazmark2002@gmail.com. And be sure to tune in for the TNA Impact review that I do with Chuck P every Friday morning at 11:30 on Chuck P's channel. I wasn't on the last time because I was ill, but I will be back on this Friday. And if you haven't checked out Chuck P's channel, give him a look. Decent show. Taz and Mike Tenay are sitting at the commentators table. Brooke Tessmacher comes out and heads to the commentators table. She gets in Taz's face and says, "I heard what you said last week. My old man heard what you said last week." Taz says, "What did I say?" Tessmacher says, "You know what you said," and walks away. Taz continues to say, "What did I say? What did I say?" Would you expect to see the scenario that I just described on next week's Impact? I would, because it would be obvious. No need for a storyline, just Bully Ray coming out and confronting Taz about what he said, that he wanted to give up his vest and quit the group because they suck. Why? Because it would be obvious. There were issues that I pointed out earlier that should have happened on this show because they were obvious. TNA has a tendency to not do the obvious most of the time. A new creative direction means correcting past mistakes and doing the obvious. And I hope that they accomplish that eventually. So far, they are not off to a good start. And that, unfortunately, is obvious. I'm Tazmark2002. Gone.